What's up?
What's up, guys?
My name is Aaron Sawyer.
Matt Michaels.
And this is the Refreshed Cast. And today we're going to talk about the technocratic overlords.
Yes, technocracy.
Technocracy of hypocrisy. Now, Matt, share your philosophy.
Nice. I just see that the world is being subdued by technology, and ultimately, the more that we embrace this technological state that we're living in, the less humanity we really have. We're becoming more and more like machines. We're already essentially androids with the connection of these phones. And the technology is getting closer and closer to becoming inside of us and a part of us and connecting to these systems permanently. And I believe that it's leading to the spiritual deterioration of humanity, and we're losing our humanity.
And technocracy, by definition, instead of a dictatorship or an aristocracy, it's basically all humans being governed by one technological source, for good or evil. It's hard with that energy to not steer towards evil, because the level of technology is so advanced, and regular people only know so much about it, that they're a few steps ahead of the game, or dozens, right? And
Dozens, probably,
and I think that there's beings past, present, and future that are fighting for good, I feel like. But yeah, like all humans being controlled through one central source, which is a technological, like AI, basically.
Totally. And I always said that, the United States is not a democracy. It's not a republic. It's a corporate oligarchy. So the corporations run everything. And now we're running into a corporate technocracy where these corporations are actually in control of everybody down to a cellular level. And so these corporations are mining us for profit rather than the other way around. And that's what's really interesting. It's the corporations that we are going to be purchasing items from are in control of our thoughts, our ideas, our perspectives.
And go ahead, bro.
And just that they're literally monitoring that all the time. I mean, already, like, your algorithm knows you better than you know you. Just imagine when you're actually connected to your thoughts, and they can alter your thoughts because that chip is in your mind,
There's a few things along that line, like geo-tracking. There's they want to create or are in the process of creating AI avatars of you that predict your behavior based off of what they send you. So that's why they're heavy into the sex slavery business and sex trafficking, basically like brainwashing these young women to sell themselves on the internet, right? Because that's not the deep connection to the wisdom of nature that they have as their inherent birthright. Like, they're being tempted by Luciferian technology to go a different direction in their life.
Totally.
And geo-tracking is huge because...
Yeah, what do you mean by geo-tracking?
They're creating a map, like basically tracking every part of this dome or firmament or spinning ball, depending on what you believe.
Starlink, essentially?
Starlink and probably a couple of other companies that we don't know about.
Okay. Well, it's interesting, like, it's kind of jumping ahead what we're going to talk about, but literally Rudolf Steiner predicted that they would be flooding the Earth with electromagnetic frequencies and things like that in order to even turn Earth into a machine. So that they could control Earth, just like they want to control the human body by turning the human body into a machine. So it's really interesting.
That doesn't sound very fun. And, like, before we scare people off, this is a tale as old as time. It's no different than ancient Atlantean technology being used for eugenics and all of this crazy stuff.
As of the days of Noah.
Yeah, bro. Like, there's always, this is a story. This is why we did that episode on archetypes and myth. Is there's always going to be these stories playing out. And so really, you can choose not to play the game. It's so hard not to care given the state of where things are at. But you also get to decide your role and your destiny, with your divine willpower. Like, what role do we play in it?
What's your hero story in the midst of it all?
And if using technology to sort of touch on these topics that people might not know about is the best that we could do, then let's do that.
Absolutely.
And dude, the EMF waves or the frequencies, that are measured in hertz, and have this many fingers, whatever this number is in hertz or gigahertz specifically. Those types of machines right now are operating not at their full capacity.
Correct.
And that's important to know because...
And it's just the beginning. We're going 6, 7, 8. They're going all the way with it. 5. 5 is just the beginning.
Like, I thought, well, it started, remember, whenever 3 came out, and everyone was like, well, this is great update. And then 4 came out.
And the next step of 6 is really the integration of the technology into the human being. It's the Internet of Things, and people are connected to that Internet of Things.
You know what just came to me, bro? Is think about the chakras, right? So right now we're in the 5th chakra of the process, trying to take away people's voices, trying to take away people's ability to speak for themselves and ability to hear different opinions if they're willing to.
Yeah.
And so the 6th would be the pineal, right? So what do you think about, how this affects society at large, but also like the youth?
Yeah, so I think that the biggest problem is not the biggest. One of the many problems is that we're becoming more and more of a hive mind. There is no more individual thoughts or ideas. All these thoughts and ideas are being manufactured by the entertainment industry, by news media, by the education systems. So they are creating public opinion. They're creating this division. They're creating this person versus this person. And they're literally in control of all of it through the algorithms and through being in these echo chambers of your perspectives.
That's interesting.
And as we've talked about before, like the point is to really find a place of neutrality within the world of polarity. But we are being tortured or tormented by these algorithms that are keeping us in a polarized state and against others. So it's keeping us as far away from a sense of enlightenment as possible. Not to mention the level of distraction. When we're always focused on the external and through technology and business and social media, where is the time to go inward and really connect with God and do that internal work? We're too distracted by these external devices all the time that we don't know who we are spiritually. We don't know anything about ourselves, really. And I think that is to our detriment. If we don't know who we are, we can't love ourselves, then we can't love others, and we end up with the world that we're currently living in.
And that's like, you're speaking for society at large. Like in the general, you're talking 60, 80%, 90% are leaning towards not having an original thought,
right.
Not being authentic, not being able to even know who they are or know thyself, which is one of the most important commandments and jurisdictions for yourself in this world, to keep yourself on a more less treacherous path, we'll say. And it's like the trippy part about it is there is original thoughts, there is the potential for authenticity, but if you're thinking about thought forms as like frequencies within the metaphysic mind field, like through space and time, I feel like we're traveling through space and time, and there's thought forms that are existing at certain frequencies that you're able to like kind of pass to and kind of grab onto. If you're completely plugged in, like most people are all day, whether it be playing Grand Theft Auto or looking at, flirtatious women on Instagram or watching violence or exposing yourself to some story that triggers your fight or flight response, your potential for authentic thoughts and communication way lower, because you're not able to access those frequencies because you're plugging into those systems and those machines. So I kind of want to ask, what do you think, like, because however deep and dark this gets, there's going to be a polar opposite, an awakening of sorts. How do you mitigate finding that balance? Because we're using this to spread awareness. We're using this to feed our wives, to create beautiful art. So like, where is that balance? And it's like It's gnarly. It's a gnarly story, but how do you find that?
I think there's only a limited amount of time that I think we can find that balance with the use of technology. So right now we do have a choice. We can use the technology for good or evil, right? Right now we have, I mean, kind of even on social media, you're removed for having certain ideas or spreading certain information, right? Certain things are off limits for you to spread in the online space these days. And that's only going to continue to get crazier and crazier to the point to where if you don't have that perspective or belief system that the system wants you to have, well, then you're going to be removed from the blockchain, from the internet altogether, and no longer have access to the technology. In which case, I believe that's where the great divide comes. And there's going to come a point where you take the Elon Musk brain chip and you get connected to the internet forever. And they can literally monitor everything going on in your body on a cellular level and know how you're feeling, your emotional state, your blood pressure, your blood sugar, all of that every day. Or you're going to eliminate technology from your life altogether because you're going to have any other choice and get back to living in harmony with nature. So it's going to be this rebirth of indigenous ways of living. And that's the only option. I don't know how long that's going to take for us to have to make that choice, but it seems like it's going to be pretty quick.
And that's why they want to geo-track so hard and be able to locate who would where, et cetera, et cetera. Yeah. I still think that it's going to be, like, since we're entering the age of Aquarius, it's going to be interesting because, like, are we going to go back to primitive ways? Are we just going to be in our own separate society that uses technology to their will because of who the source of the technology is coming from? Like, we only have the technology the military allows us to have.
Right.
You know, so I see it being like, I don't know, like you said, the great divide. I think that's a really intense concept because it's like, is it a day? Is it a day where there's blackouts, like internet blackouts, and we're just like, well, you know, okay, let the purge commence, and you either bug out or you try to fight it off in the city, fighting for resources. So I think that, because, you know, I want this episode to give people hope at the end of the day and, like, get a game plan together. You know, like, we will use this as long as we can until it's time to, and there does come a time, like, it's coming really slow for people in our generation and America and where we're at in the world because we're so comfortable. We're so comfortable. We don't want to make that move together and be like, this isn't right. We're so distracted, we can't organize. Yeah, and that's been,
and divided in all the polarities.
And it's like being down 70-0, and the head coach knows that the presidential election is coming, or the commissioner of the whole stadium of the athletic event. It's like, okay, now we're going to hit them with the presidential election. Mm-hmm. And we're going to run this playbook, you know, in these months based off of these astrological alignments. Like, when that dark moon eclipse in Scorpio season comes through, and we're going to run it. Yeah. We're going to put this thought, this seed out. You know, like Paul Chek talks about egregores being thought viruses, basically. Like, you know, all of a sudden, a new disease comes out and people keep sharing it. They share these ideas. Oh, come on. You know, like, people will spread these thought forms and ideas until it becomes a embodiment, and they don't understand the spells.
That is lesser magic. That is black magic. That's the whole, like, why did they show us all this stuff in the movies? How many dystopian movies are there about technology taking over and destroying humanity? They've implanted these thoughts, these concepts into our minds, and then our minds are the creators of it on the collective consciousness level, you know? So it is pretty wild.
Okay, you know what's trippy, bro? Nanotech. Nanotech is like, and also, like, if you're watching on audio visual, sometimes you gotta check, it's a one-man camera crew. Sometimes you gotta check on the camera, make sure that thing's still recording, the mic is all good. Nanotech, bro, like, they're able to, I don't know if there's, like, cameras or if they're able to see, like, I don't know how much they're able to see, but, like, that bite-sized technology might have been one of the most insane things to have come out and played a factor in human health and human they'll say optimization, but more so like human surveillance.
Mm-hmm.
This is very intense stuff, and like you can't fall into the thought that there's just a bunch of nanoparticles out to get you, because that sucks, and you don't want to live like that. Like, oh, did I just drink a microchip? And like,
I mean, but
it's very real.
it is a reality, and I think that it is in the food supply. I think it's being sprayed in the air, and then we know a large part of the population took a certain shot to inject those things into their bodies. And I think the important thing to realize again is how that is connected to this wireless 5 technology, right? So if they can put off any frequency at once, have you ever seen the videos of the black goo particles, the graphene oxide?
Yes.
So it's this black goo, and they put this
might have to edit that one out. You mentioned some geo. I'm gonna have to bleep it out, man. What timestamp is this? I'm not sure. Hold up. Woo, woo, woo. Pop police.
I didn't know we couldn't say that one. All right, so it was the videos of it. Those they take these this black goo, and they can play specific frequencies, and it starts to spike out, and it looks like a spike protein from like something viral or something like that. And so this idea is if we are putting this organism, this black goo, into people's body that is programmable matter, which is what it is, and then they can input any frequencies to program that matter to do what? God only knows what,
Yeah, and it's like the trippy part about all of this is it's happening slowly. Like I thought in 2020, I was down the ride. Could have been the Adderall. Yeah. Call me conscious, don't call me crazy. Call me crazy then.
Yeah. I thought that was it.
I thought we were gonna die, and I'm kind of bummed out. It's like only 0.1% of people died, man. I thought I was gonna clear up some space.
Yeah, and I didn't think it was the coughing and the sneezing that was gonna kill people off. I thought it was gonna be more government regulation.
Yeah, I was ready for troops at the door.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
I honestly came away from 2020 like this shit's lame as fuck. Y'all went so like half-assed.
And it was only real to those who perceived it as being real, and that's what's so intense about this whole thing. Because if you never bought into it, there was never really any fear about that issue itself of getting sick or anything like that. The fear was like the amount of government control that's being, and you can see how all of that is being utilized to implement this infrastructure of technological takeover. Because now they can introduce this technology to implant into you, and it can tell you if you're sick before you're sick. It can tell you what's coming all the time. So they're going to sell it as something good. This is going to keep you healthy. We're going to know this. You're going to get sick before you even get sick. So this is why you want this technology.
Because we ran the play 6 weeks ago.
Right. And, we can determine whether your child is going to have some type of condition before they're born, and then we can decide whether we want to terminate it or not. You know what I mean? Like, that's the level that we're getting to, where God or nature is no longer in charge. We are in charge.
That's why I want to live on a self-sustainable homestead somewhere out the fucking way, but also close enough to some necessary stuff, because they're not going to be focusing, at least for these earlier, these experiments have been going on with military technology for the last, hundreds of years, right? It's everlasting.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think they're going to be so focused on, Joe Schmo out in his cabin in Minnesota, or homeboy specifically down in this foreign land in Costa Rica who's kind of living off the grid, kind of connected to some technology, right? I think they're going for Chicago, New York, Los Angeles, Miami. They're going for these major cities. And if you don't have a game plan to exit at least 1,000 kilometers, or, if you don't have a city an hour away from a major city, if you don't have a town an hour away, if you don't have people, if you don't have this game plan of like, okay, if this happens, we could run here and at least see what's up, because you know the city's going to eat themselves alive. It's like that experiment with the mouses, you know, when they take away some of the supply of food.
Right.
They start eating each other, and some become very feminine, some become cold-blooded killers. It's just exacerbated.
That was actually when they gave them anything they wanted at any time, is when they actually started to do that. When they were given the mice, when they had unlimited amounts of whatever they wanted at all times, that's when society broke down for the mice.
Wow.
That's what we're living in right now.
And there was a population collapse.
Right. And the same thing, all the mice turned homosexual and things like that. Like, that was a part of that.
Yeah,
process.
literally they took in the video, they have a mouse that's looking at itself in the mirror and like, oh, I'm so pretty. And like, it's funny because when you look at micro to macro changes and transitions, you can see it. You can see it, but it's a slow macro thing. Like it's just so wild how, yes, we're in the middle of this technological takeover, but I'm still having good days with my wife in this, as the world turns, right? As the machine keeps moving.
It's just the slowly turning up the water with the frog inside of it. And I do think that what we're going to be watching right now is them pushing people out of the small towns and into the bigger cities. So making these small towns unlivable, so that you can't live out there and you have to move into the big cities like you're talking about. Like, they want everybody in the big mega city structures and then living in the 15-minute cities. I mean, if you want to know where we're headed with the technocracy, just look at what's going on in China. It's already happened there. They already have the social credit score. They already track you everywhere you go 24/7. You can't get away with anything. Everything is out in the open for everyone all the time. And that's what's coming here. And then the next level there will be to implant the chips into everybody. And then here, so they want us to live in these 15-minute cities where everything is regulated and watched all the time, where you don't drive your own car, you have to get an electric car that's tracking everywhere you're going. You have no autonomy anymore.
And so what's wild is like the same thing that's happened like in these cities in China. You know, there's some family in some village in China that's not their reality.
True.
But they got to make some sacrifices to get there, you know? And
Absolutely.
like, it's really interesting to see how like you do have choices, because I look at Tulsa right now and I'm like, this is okay. Yeah. Like, we got the best thing they got right now is this, some microchips and some drones and some jets and a lot of like military tech. But this ain't looking like Elon Muskville right now.
No,
it's looking like dudes fucking doing fentanyl in the streets and everyone just like being okay with life kind of sucking.
Yeah.
So it's not like this, because I think about it in my head, sometimes I play it off like it's so fancy. Like, wow, this is, you know, but it's really like shit's like hella run down and shit. It's not like a beautiful experience, and it's not
utopia.
It's subtle. It's these subtle shifts. Now let's end this on some ways. How do we fight off the technocracy, Matt? How do we win, bro? If you're our head coach, we're down 70-0 in the fourth quarter. What plays you calling, bro?
Well, I think it's about like getting out of the thought process of it being like winning or losing. It's just like, how can we be the best versions of ourselves within it, and how can we get back to living in our most natural state? So we're living in the construct we're living in, but we can get back out into nature as much as possible. We can connect with God as much as possible. We can get the highest quality real food. We can say no to these new technologies as they come out, and ultimately we vote with our dollar. So the more we buy the artificial food, the more that we buy all the new technology, the more that we support it, and the more that we are part of that problem and the creators of it. So I think it's really seeing like every individual personal choice that you make and every dollar that you spend is going to dictate how you support this system moving forward. And I do think it's just crucial that we build our spiritual development. Rudolf Steiner talks about, as the rise of technology comes to play, that it would make humanity mad. And actually, like, he talks about it as even being taken over by demonic entities, essentially. You know, like, we've talked about it before, these black mirrors, they're scrying mirrors. That's what they use to summon dark entities from the other side. We become possessed with these things. And so he said the only way to combat the technological takeover is to work on your own spiritual development. So as everybody else becomes possessed by these devices, that you can still be intact and connected to God. And so there is a balance of being able to use the technologies, but also keeping your connection with God and staying spiritually aware and pure.
That's, you know, it's like 5D or 5... You know, because as above is so below, and there's a pendulum of polarity here, as the law of the universe dictates. So as this outer technology grows, as this outer technological capacity, so does the inner.
Absolutely.
So, I mean, I've been flying out my body so much the last few years because it feels like I'm gaining these spiritual superpowers in the midst of very earthly pain and very egoic, you know, constructs I've created in my brain. It's still this deep power. Like when I was in my wedding ceremony, I'm catching downloads from the ancestors, like in fucking tears, just in this portal of bliss. Like these things are very real too. And, you know, I had a line. I said like, what good is a drone when there's lasers in the sky? That Black Hawk fall down from the power of my mind, or I could call on radar or I could turn off radar with the power of the light, or I could call on a UFO to teleport here and shoot the drones. All the time in the world will freeze, so who the fuck would ever know? Right? So best case scenario, I think we use this technology for good. We eat right, we live right, we think right, we move right, we learn to do the hard work and the inner work. We learn to grow and forage and build together and use this technology as long as we can. And then I think there's gonna be like Mac Miller said, don't stop till the aliens fight the robots. You know? So
wise words from Mac Miller.
Yeah, right? You know, even the tortured souls can drop some gems.
Most of the tortured souls drop the gems.
I feel like a tortured soul sometimes myself, so you're not alone.
You know, and the other thing I want to touch on, there's this belief system that, like, I like to mix this with Christianity a little bit, that we are supposed to be moving from this 3D to the 4D to the 5D, whatever. And in Christianity, it talks about the rapture and the 144,000 to go, 144,000 being the frequency of unconditional love. Mm-hmm. So we have two options here in this physical plane. Do we fall into the realm of fear and division, or do we fall into the realm of unconditional love? And so the thoughts that a lot of people have is, as this technological takeover comes over, as things get louder, more people will wake up. And then we have the choice to make. Will we end up in the place of unconditional love, and maybe we don't even exist in the same timeline that's being developed right now?
Yeah.
Like, that's the great divide.
Like, while some dudes are in pods in the city getting siphoned off by a robot, we're out meditating in Costa Rica, like not even in our body.
It's like a split of timelines, and you're now living in two different realities. We have upgraded and gotten back to living in unconditional love, while these people who are choosing fear, choosing division, get to continually live out that technological enslavement.
Either way, you're going to lay down your life. Either way, you ain't getting out of here alive. So what's your legacy going to be, dog? What you going to stand for? All right, Refresh Cast out.